Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Upgrade Your Gut live today. I'm so excited for this. We are going to go through kind of a recap of what the podcast is for this week. So I hope you're able to join me. I'm going to be live on Instagram. I'm also live in the Battle Ready Nation group. I've got an exciting release happening today at the end of this. It's that 27-day Kickstart plan that I was talking about last week if you joined us live. And so I'm excited to be able to share that with you guys today. I'm going to give it a few minutes for some people to come into the room. I'm excited for this. I can't wait to see who we've got with us. If you're here, give me a thumbs up, give me a handshake, give me a wave, give me something to let me know that you're here with me. We're going to talk about all things gut. Not typically something that most people want to talk about. So I am heading straight into the not so fun things to be talking about. So give me a thumbs up or a wave. Let me know that you're here, and then we'll get started in just a couple moments. I just want to make sure I have everything going over here. So, okay. What does your gut health have to do with anything else? I think so often we come up with these diagnoses that maybe it's a skin issue, or maybe it's even a mental problem that we have going on, a mood block, mood swings, maybe even specifically digestive issues. And we put a label on that, and then most often we get treated with a medication for that symptom. And the problem is that we're not necessarily addressing the issue. Even if you have tried different diets, if maybe you've tried different things to do, you may notice that you're still dealing with problems. You're still dealing with things that just seem not to go away. Maybe you've got psoriasis, maybe you've got eczema, maybe you've got rashes that start coming up and you don't know where they're coming from. Maybe you've got a yeast infection that you just can't get rid of. Maybe your body's not healing properly. And so what I want to talk about today is really figuring out and digging into, what does gut health have to do with anything? So when we talk about this, I want to share a story about my mom, and this is really what has kind of jumped me into this whole nutrition conversation and learning about the effects of our bodies and what that has to do with anything. So about 7 years ago, my mom started developing symptoms. She was chronically fatigued. She wasn't able to really enjoy things that were going on. She was experiencing symptoms that she had never really experienced before, and we just couldn't figure anything out. I remember sending her to the urgent care to get blood work, because I was like, I don't know where to even start with this. So let's just go see what your numbers look like. Let's see what's going on. And I remember her test all came back normal. I think maybe her liver was a little bit off, but it wasn't anything to be alarmed about. And so then it was like, so what do we do now? You know, these moments where we put our trust and our hope into a system that we think are going to have an answer, and then they suddenly don't give us any type of an answer. And so that leads you down a road of even more confusion, even more heartbreak, even more pain and sorrow. And the problem is with that is that you're still not seeking answers. You still don't know where to go and what to do. And so I want to help you delve into that, because if you're anything like my mom, if you've got any type of symptoms that are going on, I know you want an answer. I know you don't like dealing with irritable bowel syndrome. I know you don't like dealing with what food you can eat and what food you can't eat. And if you make a mistake on what you can or can't eat, then suddenly you're having to know where the bathroom is in every single store. You're having to know where you can stop along the way on your way home, so that you can use their restroom very quickly without them getting mad at you. And so the problem is, um, it's sad. It's frustrating. It's hard to deal with. It's scary. And I know all of this because of walking through this journey with my mom. And so gut health is extremely important to me. And so I want to help you guys with that. So where do we start with this? How do we figure this out? How do you know if you have any sort of gut issues going on? I really believe the first place to start is within. Ask yourself a common question of, do you think your body's healing the way that it is designed to, the way that it is supposed to? And if it's not, then how do you think we can get that corrected? Because the reality is, you deserve to be healing. You deserve to be healthy. I don't believe God made junk. I don't believe God made us so that we weren't healing properly. I don't believe that God made us so that we would have issues. I don't believe that He made us that way. I think there's certain decisions that we make along our life, along our daily habits, along our lifestyles that lead us down a road that turns into destruction. And so what does that look like, just really climbing out of that? And I think first, before we dive in, we have to look at our mindset. We have to see, where do we stand with that? Because I know that a lot of people struggle with food addiction. Not in a matter of it being a bad thing, but what we're doing is we are using food as something that is going to provide us comfort. And so as we get this comfort, as we start moving in the right direction, what begins to happen eventually is that these foods that we find ourselves so comfortable with become our friends. And then eventually those foods become our enemies, and we don't even know it. You have a bad day, you have a bad breakup, you have a bad thing at work happen, and suddenly you find yourself going into the cabinet to figure out what it is that you're missing, and how do we get this, how do I feel this emotional void that I'm having, and make things better. And the reality is that there's no amount of food that is going to help you feel better. There's no amount of food that's going to cover up an emotional breakdown. And so we really have to detach our feelings from food and start moving in the direction that food is fuel. It has nothing to do with our feelings. One way to start doing that is to recognize things that you think you have to have. Those moments where it's like, I have to have my Diet Cokes. I have to have my sodas at lunch and at dinner. I have to have my Snickers bar. I have to have my bowl of ice cream at the end of the day. I have to have, maybe it's even cream in your coffee, or maybe it's even stevia in your coffee, because for some of you, that's not that good for you. These moments where you're having your have to haves, I want you to really start recognizing what those mean to you and what that's doing to your health. Because if you have to have it, that means that there's some sort of an addiction that has been developed. And it's going to take some time, and it's going to take a decision to start walking away from that, to start moving away from that. And that's exactly what's had to happen for my mom and her story. When we got the blood work back and nothing was coming up and we didn't have any answers, then it was like, okay, what do we do now? We have to go and see why is this happening? Right. So I started getting into a raw food diet. I started getting into figuring out what that all looks like. And we found an answer with that. For her, it was, I don't even necessarily think it was the raw food plan that we did. I think it was the ability for her body to start receiving nutritious, enzyme-rich, probiotic-rich foods that helped her gut break down the foods that she was eating. And then she could start seeing results along the way. Right. So we did a raw food diet. It was a 21-day challenge thing that we did. And for her, within 7 days, everything completely changed. Symptoms started going away. I mean, she had rashes underneath her chin, underneath her eyelids, underneath her arms. Her eyes were swollen. She had no energy. She was completely fatigued day in and day out. It was in the summertime, if she went outside, it would flare up because of the heat. So she would have to stay in. And my mom loves to be outside. So her lifestyle had to start changing. And there was a moment where we had to make a decision, like, is this going to define her health? Or are we going to take action to define it and figure out exactly what's going on? And that's what we did. We dove in and figured out why did this raw food thing really work? Well, the reality is that she was feeding herself food. We did a lot of juicing, we did a lot of raw food, and took away all meats. And for her, that was her answer. But since then, that's been 7 years. There's been some more amazing things that have come up that I've learned about, things such as bone broth and what that does for our body, helping to heal, actually go in and actually heal the gut lining, which is the problem. And that's where we come into leaky gut syndrome. And that's become like a buzzword in our community and in our world. Seems like everybody has leaky gut, and it seems like everybody has some sort of an autoimmune disease. But the reality is that it's true to some sense. But what are we doing about it? The answer is not another medication to put on top of it. The answer is digging down and seeing what's causing these inflammations. There's these junctions in your gut they're called tight junctions. And the more inflammation that's there, the more sugar that you eat, the more dairy that you eat, the more grains that you eat, the more inflammation that you cause in your gut lining, the further away those tight junctions come apart. And so now particles are able to start going through these junctions, and that's what leaky gut essentially is, right? These tight junctions aren't so tight anymore, and they start to come apart, and little particles can start moving in and out of there. So the food that you're eating is leaking out into your gut stream, and going into blood-brain barrier and going through this whole process. And so all of this is affecting how well you are sleeping. It's affecting your mood. It's affecting what's happening in your body. It's affecting how you look and feel about yourself. And it's definitely affecting the way that you feel. And I'm not one to be all about just about how health is not just about how you feel, but I do believe that how you feel is an indication of what's going on with your health. If I'm being healthy and there's a week or a couple of days where I feel exhausted, I feel worn down, then that's the days where I have to like step back and say, okay, what have I done in order to cause this to happen? And most likely I've gone outside of my normal regiment. I've gone outside of my rules, and I started eating maybe some grains. Maybe I started going to have Mexican food and had some rice, and I had some tortillas, and I had some chips, because we all know how much I love chips. And there's moments where we say, well, it's just this one time that I'm going to do this. But when we look back, like that one time becomes a Tuesday, it becomes a Wednesday, it becomes a Friday, it becomes a Saturday, and then it becomes a Sunday. And so we're letting these little tiny things creep into our lives and our daily habits that we don't even realize what they're doing to us. So it's time to really start evaluating and seeing what is going on. That's why I really do love having a food log. I love being accountable for what it is, especially if you are one that is struggling with that type of an issue. We want to really take some time and look and figure out, okay, what are the things that are creeping into your life that aren't good? Maybe you've started to allow them in, and maybe your mindset is shifted from I can't have these things to whatever, it's just one thing, it's not going to be that bad. And so I know we all have those things. For me, I don't believe dairy is good, and I've thought that for a long time. And now, we have this thing with my family that why are we putting heavy cream in our coffee? And it's even though it's organic and my body doesn't react to it well. And so also I limit during the week grains, dairy, and sugar. Okay. So if you're having any issues with anything, look at how much grains you're eating, even if they're the healthy grains. So the quinoa and the farros and the steel cut oats and the things that are approved. Just because they're approved by somebody on some list doesn't mean your body's reacting to them well. And so those might be the culprits that are keeping you from losing the weight that you want to lose. Something like dairy, maybe it's cheese, maybe it's heavy cream, maybe it's half and half in your coffee, maybe it's butter. Again, not saying that these are bad things, especially when it's high quality, grass-fed, organic dairies, but your body specifically may not be reacting to it well. And then sugar. I think that we are consuming as a society way too much sugar than we absolutely should be. And when you take a step back and really start looking at it, sugar is in everything. And so we've got to develop a mindset to start looking at everything that's available to us, start figuring out why this is happening. Why are we over consuming sugar, and why are we okay with it? Right? Because why are we letting that into our bodies? We know that a tumor cell has 8 to 16 times the receptor sites for sugar. We know that. We know that sugar is a direct correlation to inflammation. We know that inflammation is a root cause to all disease. There's no disease that you have in your body that is not being addressed because of inflammation. So what I believe is that if we can drive down inflammation, that's where we can see things start to come up. That's where we can see things really start to change. And so what I've done is I've created this 27-day Kickstart Plan. This is not a diet to live on for the rest of your life. However, the last 10 days are designed to help move you into a lifestyle type of living. Foods that you can eat on a regular basis, foods that you won't get bored of, foods that you can go into. There's a 3-day bone broth fast that there's a recipe in there exactly how to make the bone broth yourself. You definitely can go and buy that at the store. There's bone broth, frozen bone broth available. I know I've gotten some at around here, Fresh Time, Fresh Market. I know probably Whole Foods, those kinds of places have those. Fruitful Yield. You can go get frozen bone broth, and that way you don't have to make it and do it yourself. But I recommend making it yourself, because then you know exactly what is going in there. You know exactly the type of chicken. You know exactly the type of vegetables. You know exactly the type of spices and flavors that are in there. There's no hidden things if you're doing it on your own, and you can monitor it even more than you could if you went and bought store-bought bone broth. And it's very simple. It's very easy to do this. It takes a day and a half to get it all done and get it cooking. There's a recipe in the 27-day Kickstart Plan that's available for you guys for that. And then the next 14 days, what that is all about no grains, no dairy, no sugar, no alcohol. 14 days, 2 weeks. 2 weeks to totally transform the rest of your life. I promise you this. I have seen within my clinic these rules applied, and when these rules are applied, massive transformation happens. People are dropping weight 5, 10, 15, 20 pounds in a week, 2 weeks time. Rapid weight loss is not good if you do it in an unhealthy way. But when you do it in a way that you're taking the toxic elements out of your diet, that's when you start to see healthy weight loss happen rapidly. Another thing that we're going to add into the second 14 days is intermittent fasting. I'm a true believer of intermittent fasting. I believe that our gut needs time to heal. Our gut needs time to digest food. And what we're doing is we're overloading it. We have too much access to food. And I don't believe that's how we were designed to live. And so when we think about our daily habits, most people, when they wake up, they grab something to eat. They make their coffee. They maybe if they're doing good, they go and work out. But typically they'll grab something else to eat. They'll eat something when they get to work. They'll eat something at their lunch. They'll eat something in the middle between after lunch and before they get to go home. They might even have a snack in the car, and then they'll have a dinner, and then they'll have a bedtime snack. And so that's like 8 times eating, right? And so your gut is constantly trying to break down this food over and over and over again, with no chance of really truly doing what it's supposed to do. Breaking down food, it needs enzymes, it needs whole food enzymes, which is why it is so important to actually eat raw foods, raw fruit and raw vegetables, because what that's going to do is it's going to give your body a break. The more you cook your food, the more enzymes are lost. Your body only gets a certain amount of enzymes to help break down food. And the more cooked food you eat, the more you lose your enzymes. So when you eat food that is raw and in its most natural state, it is more easily broken down. So your gut doesn't have to work as hard, which is a huge blessing. And so what I want to know is where are those things that you're not really diving into when it comes to the raw foods? Like, how much, really be honest with yourself. How much raw food are you eating? Or let's have this conversation. How much fast food are you eating? How much cooked food are you eating? How much food are you putting into your system that's not giving your body a break, right? And so that's where intermittent fasting comes into. And there's 3 main ways to do intermittent fasting that I recommend anyway. You can do a 24-hour fast where you're only drinking water. And that's something that, if that's what you think you need to do, let's have a conversation before you jump into that, because you may not have to do such a radical fasting move. It may be something that you can do a little bit easier. If you're new to fasting and you just don't know quite what to do, I recommend an 8-hour eating window. And so the easiest thing for most people is like an 11 o'clock start time and a 7 o'clock finish time. Adjust that to your schedule. And so you want to have 8 hours of eating. I don't mean like you're going to just be sitting there and eating for 8 hours. I mean like you structure out your time that you get your quality nutrients into your body and see the changes that are going to start to be made. And so what that looks like is that's an 8-hour window. So you can start eating. I recommend like a good, maybe even start with a good bone broth right off the bat. Give your body a chance to heal. Give your body a chance to break down some stuff that may be left over from the day before. And then move further into the next. Maybe a breakfast could be a protein shake with good quality grass-fed whey protein. They've even got bone broth protein out now, and there's also an option for a good sourced plant-based protein. That could be a shake in the morning. Typically, what I like to do is I don't actually, today I'm still in a fasted state. It's almost 1 o'clock my time. And the only thing I've had so far is this juice, and it's filtered water, lemon, maple syrup, apple cider vinegar, and cayenne pepper. I did work out this morning. I ran for 1 hour and 10 minutes. So I'm totally okay with working out in a fasted state. And I actually prefer that over having a full stomach. And so after this, I'll actually go and eat. And yesterday yesterday was Wednesday, and that's when I do my juice fast Wednesday. And so all I ate for the most part was juices. And so that's my day. Getting back to the intermittent fasting, a good window If you've never started before and you don't really know what you're doing, start with an 8 hour window. What I believe is the best way to start is a good 6 hour window. And so I recommend maybe a 12 o'clock start time and then finish up by 6 p.m. And you're only eating in those windows. So you don't start eating until noon and you don't stop eating until 6 p.m. Or you could shift it to 11 and 5 p.m. or whatever your window works best for you with your schedule. Figure that out. And then even more advanced would be a 4 hour window. And so that would be like a 12 o'clock start time and you're done eating by 4 o'clock. You're getting all of your nutrients that you need inside of there. And then there are rules though of what you can and cannot eat. You don't want to overload your system with just a bunch of grains and a bunch of stuff that's going to cause more inflammation, because you can still do harm within the intermittent fasting. And so be smart. You want to have lowered glycemic fruits. Some of my favorite fruits that I go to are Granny Smith apples, grapefruits, blueberries or blackberries, avocados, lemons, and limes. Those are like the typical only fruits that I eat. Sometimes when I'm in my heavy training periods, I'll have a free or dehydrated bananas or a half a banana in the daytime, whatever it is, depending on my schedule with that. But that's a different story. Unless you are like really, really training, you don't need a ton of sugar that's coming from fruit. And yes, I understand sugar from fruit is different from sugar from sugar cane, but it still is having an effect on your system. Another thing that we'll do in that 14 days is the no grains. And so I'm a huge advocate for getting rid of grains out of your diet. Limiting them, go through this 14-day overhaul, but make sure that you don't add stuff back in that's going to cause more damage than it is going to cause healing to happen. And so moving on after that, we move into the 10 days and beyond. And so we talk about the types of meat that you can eat, the grass-fed beef, the free-range chicken, wild-caught fish, and some other different things, the fruits that are acceptable. And then there's a really good group of vegetables that you could cycle in and out of your daily regimen. And if you become disciplined with that, you're going to be eating the right types of healing food for your gut. The problem is though, is that we're overloading our system with too much vegetables, too much fruits, too much meats, too much carbs, too much of this, too much of that. And listen, guys, I don't want you to go on like a low carb diet. I don't want you to go on a diet at all. This 27-day plan is designed specifically for you to be able to go out and do a 3-day bone broth cleanse. All you're doing is drinking bone broth. There's nothing else that you're putting except for water. Water can be drank all day long, but there's no food going into your system. You have to, especially if you are in a state where you're overweight, you're unhappy, you've got disease going through your body, you don't know what's going on. It's time to give your body a break and allow it to heal. So that's what that 3-day bone broth cleanse is designed for. You're only going to be drinking bone broth 3 days with water. And there's another special drink that you'll have right away off in the morning. So you want to do that. And then we move into the 14 days where it's no grains, no dairy, no sugar, no alcohol. And then the 10 days, I give you exactly what to be putting, the spices, the types of herbs that you can use, good dairy substitutes so that you don't get caught up in the dairy game again. And listen, guys, don't let your mind shift from what really matters. Okay. And so what I mean by that is that there's going to be things that you're like, that's okay, I can still have that. Like we justify and we give ourselves excuses for things that really they're not good. And they're not good for your body. And you know it, and I know it. I've been doing this 27-day plan. We did the bone broth cleanse, doing the 14-day overhaul. Within the last 5 days, I've lost 4 pounds. And I really don't have 4 pounds to lose, but there was 4 pounds of unwanted fat. There was 4 pounds of things that were just not, I knew they weren't good. on my body. It didn't make sense. I was really tired and really groggy the last 2 weeks. I finally feel energetic. I finally feel like I can get up at 4 a.m. with no problem. I finally feel I can go out and do my workouts like I'm supposed to be doing them. And that's really, truly after starting this 27-day Kickstart plan that I've made for you guys. And I know that if you just like give me 27 days, give me 27 days and watch the rest of your health completely transform. Like really, truly, what do you have to lose? Is it the cake that you're going to be missing out on? Is it the birthday or the champagne that you're going to be missing out on? What really truly is it that's the thing that's holding you back from? You have these goals, right? You started this year 2020 with some sort of a goal that you wanted to either lose weight, you wanted to reverse a disease, you wanted to do something different, and yet you still have issues with losing the weight and doing what you know is best. And so it's time to really, really transform your health and get serious with it. Get serious with your health. You only have one body. You only have been given one body. And you don't know when the last day is. You don't know when you are going to burn out. However, I don't want to sound doom and gloom when I have that kind of a conversation, but what I do want to help you understand is that we don't know. And if we don't know, then we can't do something about it. But we can take responsibility for the right here, right now. If we do take responsibility for the right here, right now, we can see a transformation start to happen. We can see change start to be made. We can see our health start to increase. We can see our energy. We can see if you're not sleeping well, if you find yourself being moody, that's not normal. That's not how God designed us to be, right? Go back and listen to the podcast today. I don't want to go into too much depth of what leaky gut is. I've already done that. Go listen to the podcast. I'll put the link in the comments below. But if you've been struggling like my mom was struggling, then you know that it's time for you to make a change. It's time to really truly get ready. Get ready to make a change, and you do deserve it. Okay. Like for my mom, a huge example for her with that raw food diet, we did that. And then there's been moments where we started to add some other things back in and get lazy with our health. And to most people, if they saw our lazy, they would say, you guys are doing great. She's doing great, but the fact of the matter is that we know that there's some issues that rose back up, and she's taking control. For her, one of the things was putting heavy cream in her coffee. And that was like her thing. I know already, I think it's been a week and a half that she hasn't been putting cream in her coffee because she listened to Dr. Tracy on Battle Ready podcast, and things started changing. Her body's already losing inflammation, starting to release some of the weight that it's been holding on to, and it's starting to really increase the healing abilities. And so her bathroom experience is better, and I know that yours can be too. And so it's not shameful to talk about bathroom issues. It's not shameful to talk about things that we're struggling with in our health. That's why we're creating groups like this. That's why I do a podcast. That's why I got on live here today. That's why I made a 27-day plan for you. I put the link in the comments below. Go ahead and go in there and figure out, how to do this. I recommend starting the bone broth cleanse on a Friday, which is, hey, if you're one of those people that you want to take immediate action, tomorrow's Friday. Start with a bone broth cleanse, 3 days. Tells you exactly how to go through it, tells you exactly what to do starting on Monday. You can go get your shopping list together. You can go get your meal planning put together. And then it tells you what to do 10 days and beyond after. I can't make you do anything. I can't make you care about your health. I can't make you want to make a change. I can provide you with resources. I can provide you with ways to make a change, but it's up to you ultimately to only allow certain things in your cart, in your grocery store, only allow certain things in your car, only allow certain things in your home. If there's things that are still there that you know are destructive for your health, get them out. Go donate them to a food bank so that you can start fresh. People do need to eat, right? Go donate so that you don't feel bad about getting rid of the food. But make a change. Know that you are worth it. Go listen to the podcast and understand exactly what we're talking about with that. But now is the time to take action. Now is the time to start making a change. And it's not going to be easy. You know, the first 3 days of only drinking bone broth, it's going to be hard. But I promise you it is going to be worth it. The next 14 days of no alcohol, some of you cannot go 14 days without alcohol, and I get it. But you have to weigh your health versus your emotions and versus your feelings and versus your the like right now moment of what you want to have. Right? So what does that look like? Can you do 14 days with no alcohol? Can you do 14 days with no grains, no dairy, no sugar? I think you can. And so I put the link down below. I'm going to give you a chance to go ahead and do that. I'll be posting some things throughout the day as well. Thanks for listening, guys. I think my internet's getting cut short here, so I'm going to just cut myself off here. Link below.